Hey everyone, welcome to Get Sleepy, where we listen, we relax, and we get sleepy. My name's Thomas, and it's my honor to be your host. Tonight, we'll continue our sleepy series exploring the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Don't worry if you've missed the other episodes. You can listen to this one now and catch the other stories at another time. Tonight, we're heading to the Greek island of Rhodes in the 3rd century BCE. There, we'll see the Greek sun god Helios, immortalised in bronze for all to see. We'll learn about the Colossus of Rhodes, the largest statue in the ancient world. Thanks so much to Joe for writing this amazing series, which I'm delighted to be able to read for you all. I'm learning new things with each episode I record, which is one of my favourite aspects of narrating stories for you all. Not only is it a joy to help people all over the world sleep that bit better, and perhaps learn new things for yourselves, but so many of our stories feel like a really interesting lesson where I get to add little bits of information to my own bank of knowledge. So hats off to our amazing writers for bringing these stories to life in an interesting and absorbing way, whilst maintaining such a soothing vibe with each script. Before we get to tonight's story, I just want to mention Get Sleepy Premium. There are lots of great perks that make Get Sleepy Premium the best way to experience the show, like ad-free listening, access to our entire catalogue of stories, discount on merchandise, and maybe best of all, a brand new bonus episode every single Thursday. Tomorrow night, Vanessa will be reading to us as we visit an idyllic and historic island just off the east coast of the United States, famous for its fishing heritage, spectacular sunsets, and a delicious 10-layer cake. To find out more about all the perks of being a Get Sleepy Premium member, just visit the link in the description. It would mean the world to have your support. Thank you so much. Now, my friends, let's take the time to relax and unwind. Find a comfortable position and close your eyes. I'd like you to bring awareness to your natural breath, observing the rhythm and sensations of the inhale and exhale. We'll stay with the breath for a couple of minutes, and I invite you to bring curiosity to this practice. If thoughts draw your attention, simply notice that you've drifted and return your awareness to the sensations of the breath. Observe how it feels to inhale and exhale. Perhaps it feels different in the nose, throat, chest, and belly. Notice the rhythm of your body rising and falling, and that moment of pause between the inhale and exhale. The breath can provide a sanctuary within the body, It's a safe place that you can retreat to at any time. If you're looking to reset or find peace and relaxation, tuning into the breath will help you get there. Now, there's nothing left for you to do but follow my voice. Allow the breath to fade into the background and continue on its own accord as we travel to ancient Greece. This is where our story begins. Picture yourself aboard a great wooden ship. It bobs gently along the Mediterranean Sea on lapis-colored waves that glisten with sunlight. You are seated within the ship's inner compartment, gazing out across endless, frothy waves. The boat's 3 sails flap in the wind above you. Below, you hear the oarsmen paddling in unison. The breeze whistles outside. It sounds as if the sea was speaking in whispers. The salty air flows in through the window openings. It's cool and refreshing for passengers in the cabin. You are one of many travelers bound for Rhodes, the capital city on the island of the same name. To the Greeks, it's the home of the sun god Helios. It's named after his wife, the nymph Rhodos. This island of the sun is wealthy and powerful, due in large part to where it's located. It's roughly equidistant from the island of Crete and the southeast Greek mainland, and just miles away from what will later be known as Turkey. The harbour is located at the north end of the island, within the district of the capital city. It's the perfect spot for ships to stop on voyages between Greece and Asia Minor. Until recently, it's been in the middle of warring nations, those involved in the Wars of the Successors. Battles have been fought across the past 4 decades, after the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BCE. When Alexander passed away before naming an heir, his former generals began vying for power. This resulted in a war between 3 major factions. There was the Ptolemaic Empire in Egypt, the Seleucid Empire in Persia, and the Antigonid dynasty in Asia Minor. You've been chatting about the war with the man beside you, a friendly stranger whose name is Leandros. The travelling merchant is returning home to Rhodes and knows all there is to know about the history of the island. The Rhodians, he explains, remained neutral in the conflict, but had a friendly relationship with Ptolemy in Egypt. This worried Antigonus in Asia Minor, who feared what might happen if Rhodes aligned with his enemies. And so, he resolved to lay siege to the island, sending a fleet across the sea in 305 BCE. His son Demetrius led an army of 40,000 against a force of Rhodians only 7,000 strong. According to Leandros, Demetrius did all he could to break through the defences that the islanders had built, but his men were pushed back each time they advanced, and they couldn't stop supply ships from reaching the Rhodians. Demetrius ordered the construction of enormous siege weapons, including one unlike anything seen before. The Helios, as it was known, was an iron-plated siege tower and had 16 catapults built in place along its frame. Leandros is a man who appreciates engineering. His eyes light up as he describes the Helios. It was 20 meters wide and 40 meters tall, and so heavy that it required 3,500 men working in relays to push it into place. He was only a boy at the time of the battle, about 30 years ago before your visit today. But he remembers the sight of the massive iron tower. He'd never seen anything as large or magnificent. At least, not until the massive bronze statue that was erected recently in 280 BCE. The sun god Helios stands on a hill near the harbour. It's the tallest statue in the entire ancient world. As if by magic, you catch sight of it at the very moment Leandros mentions Helios's name. Your vessel skirts the coastline en route to the harbour, passing by the grassy hill bearing the massive sun god. Helios looks strong and powerful. He wears only a toga draped around his waist. He gathers the material in one hand, raising the other above his face, as if he's shielding his eyes from the glare of sunlight. On his head, he wears a solar crown. Spikes point outwards like rays of sunlight. In the light of day, his bronze surface twinkles, making him even more ethereal and godlike. It's the biggest statue that you've ever laid eyes on, as large and lifelike as you'd imagine a real god. Of course, you'd heard tales of its size and beauty, but somehow the statue is even better than you'd imagined. Leandros, of course, shares in your appreciation, despite having seen it many times before. He never tires of watching the reactions of visitors, their expressions of awe when they first see the statue. The statue, he explains, was made after the siege, in part to commemorate victory in the war. Demetrius couldn't win, despite outnumbering the Rhodians, not even with equipment like the Heliopolis siege tower. When Ptolemy sent a relief force around a year into the battle, Demetrius knew that it was time to give up. He had no choice but to return to Asia Minor and make peace with the Rhodians once more. The islanders rejoiced, as you'd guess they might, especially when they saw the equipment left behind. They sold the catapults, the battering rams and siege engines as scrap. They melted the iron plates that had covered the Heliopolis. In doing so, they amassed profits of 300 talents of silver. This was more than enough to commemorate their victory and to honor the god who'd protected them in the siege. You've come to the island to see the statue, like many other passengers with you on the boat. You can still glimpse it now as you approach the harbour. Helios on his hill is never far from sight. Your new friend Leandros offers to take you to the statue. He's going that way anyway to see his family. He'll tell you what he knows about its construction amidst the surroundings of his gorgeous island. The easygoing merchant makes for very pleasant company as the ship pulls in and passengers disembark. You exit the ship onto the jetty and look out across a beautiful city. Rhodes is what you'd expect from an ancient Greek island. Cobblestone streets and terracotta rooftops. Villas rise along the slopes of the hillsides. People sit on balconies, relaxing in the sunshine. Fountains and statues are peppered about the roadsides, as are parks, gardens, and elegant courtyards. Neatly trimmed hedges, trees, and flowers add contrasting colour against white and beige buildings. They are especially striking near the larger buildings, the temples, schools, bathhouses, and pavilions. These white marble buildings are full of sophistication, with pillars, elegant sculpting, and triangular gable roofs. And then there's Helios, overlooking the rooftops, a sparkling bronze giant, the patron of Rhodes. From the flat of the harbour, it looks twice its size. The tip of his crown grazes the bottom of the sun. Around the statue and above the rooftops, the cloudless sky is sapphire blue. The weather is as close as it gets to perfect. It's a lovely warm day with a calm, cool breeze. You enjoy the feeling of sunshine on your skin as you set off walking beside Leandros. You're dressed in the fashions of ancient Greece, wearing a lightweight tunic and well-made leather sandals. Salty sea air billows through the fabric, cooling down your legs as you walk. The loose-fitting fabric gives you freedom of movement as you turn a corner and head out of the harbour. The area around the docks is full of shops and warehouses, and merchants sell their goods from stalls by the roadside. There's everything from souvenirs to food and refreshments on sale to the visitors who pass through the harbour. One of these merchants, it just so happens, is Leandros's cousin and very good friend. He is warm and animated, and just as charming as Leandros, and he insists that you enjoy some refreshments free of charge. You stand with Leandros at a tall round table, sipping from a goblet and munching on cake. The cake is made with layers of thin pastry, with walnuts, almonds, and honey in between. It's just what you needed after your time at sea. A tasty, sweet treat to revive your senses. You thank Leandros's cousin for his kindness to a stranger. Now you have the energy to walk up the hill. You set off once again with Leandros by your side, strolling upwards along the cobblestone street. You pass all kinds of buildings, from great temples to small villas, as well as flowers in planters and elegant marble fountains. The streets are busy with an eclectic mix of people, from travellers and locals to priests and politicians. Though as you listen to Leandros, they all fade away. He speaks with such passion that you hang on every word. The Colossus of Rhodes was built by Chares of Lindos, considered at the time to be the best sculptor on the island. He'd come personally recommended by a man named Lysippos, who'd been the personal sculptor of Alexander the Great. In total, it took around 12 years to build, and Leandros saw it at different stages of construction. The first thing to go up was the marble pedestal, a 5-meter tall stage on the flattened grassy hilltop. A huge casting pit had to be built in order to make the bronze plates of the figure. These were attached to an iron framework that formed the inner skeleton on the marble stage. Stone blocks were placed inside the frame to support it as the Colossus grew taller. A substantial workforce was needed to heave them up along the ramps that were built around the statue. Leandros loved to watch the craftsmen at work, though he was often frustrated that he couldn't see the statue. The huge earthen ramp gave the workmen access, but it hid the Colossus from public view. Though admittedly, he says with a knowing smile, this did make for an exciting reveal. He'll never forget the day when the ramps were removed and the bronze sun god was finally on show. On its marble stage, positioned atop the hill, it was as tall as the Helios that he'd seen as a boy. Though the figure of Helios, protector of the island, was infinitely more attractive than the siege tower. There were huge celebrations alongside its unveiling, with music, dancing, poetry, and prayer. Offerings were placed in various temples and around the base of the statue on the hill. The sun god is a symbol of Rhodian pride, a showing of their wealth and the power of their will. It was built with the spoils of their victory in battle, when they defended their homeland against all odds. What's most striking about the statue is its size and scale. It seems to grow bigger with every step forward. According to Leandros, it's about 70 cubits tall. That's over 30 meters, not including the stage. From your viewpoint on the path, the statue is visible behind the roof of a temple. This in itself is a magnificent building, all gleaming white marble and sleek soaring columns. A building like this, so sophisticated and grand, would surely draw the eye wherever it was made. But dwarfed before the legs of the massive bronze statue, it somehow seems like a minor distraction. You can't help but stare with an expression of wonder, and this causes Leandros to smile and chuckle. The merchant's mood is light and giddy. He says he's always like this when he returns from his travels. Though That isn't to say that he's in any kind of hurry. He strolls at leisure, like a holidaymaker on the beach. His pace is in keeping with the vibe of the island, where the fastest walk is a gentle saunter. Your pace slows further as the hill becomes steeper. Yet, before you know it, you are turning a corner and walking the cobblestone path with the sun god at its end. The healing sea breeze is stronger up here, and you're thankful for the air that wafts through your clothes. You drink it in, feeling its coolness and basking in the scent of salt water in the air. There are other scents too, the aromas of nature. You smell something like pine trees and fresh, tangy grass. There are hints of ripe fruit, perhaps from an orchard, and the sweet, heady perfume of flowers in bloom. You take in the scents and the sensations of the breeze, the sun on your skin, the way your tunic gently flutters. Leandros must sense that you're enjoying the moment, because he stops speaking and lets you absorb your surroundings. Ordinary sounds are made special on the island. Footsteps on stone are like music to your ears. Thoughts fade away beneath the patter of sandals. Although you're moving, you feel very still and peaceful. The Mediterranean Sea is a constant presence, from the healing smell of salt water to the sound of the tide lapping against the coastline. Rolling waves provide the island's constant soundtrack. They ebb and flow in a never-ending loop. One might imagine that you'd tire of the water after days aboard a ship. But actually, you've found that the opposite is true. The rhythm of the waves has started to feel like home. And who could ever tire of the sight of the water? Lapis-coloured waves surround the island, shimmering gold beneath a veil of sunlight. Waves rise and fall in great frothy swells. They are ivory white against the dark blue water. Where the tide rolls in, lapping over the sand, the water is rimmed in a thin layer of foam. A colony of seagulls paddles in shallow water, their specks of bright white from high upon the hill. Elsewhere, gulls caw as they fly above the water, looking effortlessly graceful as they glide through the sky. Some sit on rooftops fountains and statues, seemingly indifferent to the people who pass by. One struts beside you on the cobblestone pathway, as if he's a tourist on their way to see the statue. And what a statue it is! The giant sun god. Helios grows taller with each and every step. Ahead of you are other visitors, men and women dwarfed by the giant figure. The statue is so large that it's changed the Greek language. The word Colossus was invented to describe this very statue. It's a word that will be used thousands of years later for any person or object of immense size or power. What's more, the Rhodians are also known as Colossians. Such is the impact of this enormous statue. It's changed the identity of the people on the island and the language they use to define themselves. The city has grown in wealth and reputation ever since the Colossus was unveiled to the public. It's become as much known for its culture as it was for its commerce. Schools have been erected around the city for science and philosophy, literature and rhetoric. Naturally, there's also a school of sculptors, whose students will become known for their talent and flair. They'll develop their own style of carving, known as Hellenistic Baroque, that is rich and dramatic. No doubt, many artists will be inspired by the statue, as well as the skill and ambition of Chares of Lindos. The giant bronze statue has changed the landscape of the island and altered the habits of the ancient Greeks. Until now, it's been far from common practice to travel for leisure and take sightseeing trips. But as word has spread about the huge bronze sun god, it has resulted in a form of early tourism. Those who can afford it have travelled to see it from distant realms far across the globe. Rhodes has benefited from an influx of wealthy explorers who've spent money on the island and bolstered the economy. Leandros has met some fascinating people here, even more than he's encountered on his travels as a merchant. It's been wonderful to learn more about foreign cultures and customs, to see tourists in unfamiliar fashions, to hear the music of far-flung places, and to taste exotic dishes in local eateries. Somehow, the island has seemed more colourful, more alive, ever since the statue was revealed to the public. Rhodes is thriving, like a flower in bloom. and Helios, the sun god, smiles down upon the people. This is what you're thinking as you approach the statue's base and gaze upwards, studying the great figure. The sun is so dazzling that you are forced to shield your eyes, mimicking the pose of the god above you. Leandros does the same as he stands beside you on the path, and you share a moment of unspoken admiration. When he breaks the silence, his voice is barely a whisper, as if not to disturb the otherworldly statue. He tells you that he'll leave you here to enjoy some solitude in the presence of the sun god. Leandros is going to go home and see his family. He's eager to greet them after his time away. He promises to return in a couple of hours, however, and bring you back as a guest in his home. He'll ask his wife to set an extra place at the table and to make up the spare bed for his new friend. You thank him kindly, exchanging fond farewells, before returning your gaze to the statue before you. The way the bronze glistens is nothing short of magic. It glitters and sparkles from feet to crown. You can't even imagine the size of the casting pits that Kares would have needed to form the different parts, nor the skill or acumen, the precision and engineering needed to plan out such a project, let alone build it. The muscles of the sun god are so well defined that you almost expect him to move off the stand. The material at his waist is so creased and realistic, you wouldn't be surprised to see it flutter in the wind. It makes sense that such a monument will eventually be mentioned in Antipater of Sidon's famous poem about the 7 wonders of the ancient world. That reference will cement its reputation and legacy throughout history. This poem won't be written until the 2nd century BCE, and by then the statue will no longer be standing. Rhodes's location between tectonic plates means that the island is prone to earthquakes. It's an earthquake that will topple the Colossus of Rhodes in 226 BCE. Buildings will crumble around the great city, and Helios will fall over, breaking away at the knees. Offers of foreign aid will flood in after the earthquake, from kingdoms far across the Mediterranean. The city will be rebuilt, except for the Colossus, even despite offers to pay for its reconstruction. Earthquakes are believed to show the gods' displeasure, and so the Rhodians will worry that they've upset their patron. When the Oracle of Delphi advises not to rebuild it, they resolve to leave it scattered on the hillside. Since the day Chares first unveiled the sun god to the public, it will only have stood intact for 54 years. This makes its legacy all the more impressive and speaks to the impact of this short-lived wonder. Pieces of the statue will remain on the hillside, peppered around the legs, still upright on the stage. And here they will stay for 8 centuries, as much a tourist attraction as they ever were. Crowds of visitors will travel to the hillside and gaze in awe at the fallen sun god. They'll meander across the grass between massive bronze pieces, studying close up the details of the statue. Contemporary accounts describe the ruins, including fingers longer than most statues are tall. Tourists are in the habit of wrapping their arms around his thumb, though all struggle to reach around it entirely. This will continue across different periods of history throughout Greek civilization and far beyond. From 70 CE, Rhodes will be part of the Roman Empire, and under Byzantine rule a few hundred years later. The island will be occupied by the Umayyad Caliphate in 654 CE. Only then will the Colossus be melted and sold, like the leftover siege weapons used to finance its construction. What's truly remarkable about the Colossus of Rhodes is how its reputation will grow over millennia. So much so that by the 21st century, it will be difficult to separate fact from fiction. Contemporary accounts discuss the size of the statue, the materials used, and the process of construction. But none actually describe what Helios looked like, so the truth of the statue is shrouded in mystery. Historians have had to guess the specifics, and artists have been left to reimagine the sun god. Many of us are more familiar with the fictitious Colossus straddling pillars in the harbour, torch raised in the air. There's no evidence to support this version of the statue, but many believe it all the same. Some even imagine it to have acted like a lighthouse, illuminating the harbour with the light from its torch. In fact, it's the fantasy rather than reality that has inspired great works like the Statue of Liberty. A gift from France to the United States, it was erected in New York Harbor in 1886. Emma Lazarus, a contemporary writer, described the statue as the new Colossus. The toga-clad Libertas, Roman goddess of liberty, stands with her torch raised high above the harbour. Her head is capped with the solar crown, its outward-facing points like rays of sunlight. The way that we've seen the sun god today is as close as we can get to an accurate depiction. It's based on sculptures uncovered across the island of Helios, with his hand raised near his head, as though saluting or shielding his eyes from the glare of sunlight. Although many depictions show the statue in the harbour, evidence suggests that it was built on this hill. It's fortunate that it was, considering the earthquake. Otherwise, it might have fallen beneath the surface of the water. In the 21st century, the Colossus of Rhodes exists in imagination more than anything else. Though the island of Rhodes is as alive as ever. It's one of Europe's most popular destinations. Tourists flock to sunbathe on its beaches, swimming and paddling in those lapis-coloured waves. They sample local dishes and bathe in natural hot springs. They absorb the easy pace of life on the island. So, let's return now to look at the statue, intact and standing in the 3rd century BCE. You are stood by the base, beneath the huge bronze toes, feeling as small and humble as you've ever felt. You suspect that others feel much the same way, because the crowd around you is quiet and reverential. People study the giant figure as if they are deep in prayer. Some kneel on the ground, bowing before the statue. You begin to walk around the marble stage, away from the path and onto the grass. You weave seamlessly around people on the lawn. Some recite poems, others sing to the statue. The air is thick with love and devotion, and the scent of roses scattered like confetti. Ruby red petals decorate the lawn. They add layers of sweetness to the healing sea breeze. You walk around to the part of the hilltop that stands in shadow. Here, the marble stage is cool to the touch. You rest a hand on the stone and enjoy the sensations. Then you slip off your sandals and carry them in your hand. You walk barefoot across the soft grass enjoying the breeze that billows through your clothes. Then you settle in a spot in the shadow of the Colossus, one with views across the Mediterranean. This is where you'll meet Leandros later, before he takes you to his home for a delicious meal. You'll be treated as well as any member of his family before retiring beneath the covers of a bed fit for kings. For now, you're content to lean back on the grass, to enjoy the cushioning of the hilltop beneath you. The healing sea air is wonderfully soothing, and the rhythm of the waves is as familiar as home. You take one last look at the Colossus of Rhodes, an epic masterpiece of sculpted bronze. Then your eyes drift closed as you lie back on the grass, surrendering to a state of deep relaxation.